Thank you for tuning in to this edition of NASDAQ Amplify's Issuer Spotlight, where we feature conversations with leaders from some of the world's most innovative and growth-oriented small-cap companies. Today, I'm joined by David Elsley, Chief Executive Officer of NASDAQ-listed Cardiol Therapeutics. David, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having us, Michael. It's exciting to be here.
Can you start by telling us about Cardiol Therapeutics and what you're working on?
Cardiol is a life sciences company. We're now fortunate and privileged to be in late-stage development with our lead drug asset, which is designed to serve unmet needs in patients' lives for patients living with and suffering from debilitating heart disease. And we're very excited now to be in phase 3. And then we have an exciting pipeline following that, addressing challenges that currently aren't being served by medicines today.
Can you talk about those challenges and the prevalence of heart disease and how you're working to advance the current standard of care?
Our lead program is in a condition called recurrent pericarditis. That is a condition that is miserable, impairs quality of life in folks in their prime of life, typically 45 to 50 years of age. It causes chest pain. These bouts of chest pain can recur and go on for hours, days, weeks, and they can recur multiple times a year. And there's powerful drugs that patients can resort to. But those drugs can be immune suppressing. They can create challenges and potentially make patients at risk for other complications. And they're very expensive. So they're not really accessible to the thousands of patients that really need access to them. And that's what Cardiol hopes to change.
So what does the future look like for Cardiol in your pipeline?
Our lead program, called Maverick, is now enrolling patients at preeminent cardiovascular research centers here in the United States. It is being led by the largest pericardial disease centers in the world, including the Mayo, Cleveland Clinic. There's going to be international centers joining that trial shortly. And that's a lead program that we believe is positioned to underpin our first new drug application. We also have an exciting advanced program also that is just read out called the Archer trial in acute myocarditis, which is a global trial that we're very excited about the data that's just recently been released and will be more comprehensively reported at a major congress later this year, we expect.
So for your trials, so what is your approach to risk mitigation during clinical development?
Well, for risk mitigation, you really want to, in medicine, if you want to develop a new medicine, I was told many years ago by one of my mentors, find one of the top 10 experts in the world and convince one of them to work with you.
It's good advice.
It is. It was fantastic advice. We're fortunate to have many of those top 10 working behind our programs. They collaborate with us on the design. We do consultation with regulators, including the FDA, to ensure we have alignment with respect to guidelines so we can develop these safe and effective medicines to essentially change people's lives that are suffering with heart disease unnecessarily.
So what does success look like in terms of impact on patients' lives?
Well, success, we believe success looks like the data we just reported recently on August 5th in patients in a global trial in acute myocarditis. So what happens, so acute myocarditis has no standard of care. It is a leading cause of death by cardiovascular causes in people under the age of 35. And in that trial, what happens when the heart becomes sick, it can enlarge, and that can be a sign of an underlying phenomenon like hypertension, heart failure, or obesity. And when the heart becomes enlarged, it can become less effective. It doesn't perform properly, and it can become less effective or less efficient because the muscle stretches. What we observed is we observed a reduction in heart size in that trial. And the patients with myocarditis typically aren't hypertensive, and they're typically not obese. So what we believe this was a representation of reducing swelling in the heart or heart size, reducing the space between the heart. And when you reduce heart size, the heart can return to its normal function. And not only does this potentially transcend to advancing the medicine in life-threatening forms of myocarditis, which was our ambitious goal to begin with, where no drug has ever worked today, to an extension now into heart failure, which is one of the greatest medical challenges of modern medicine today. I mean, heart failure is an epidemic. It's driven by obesity, hypertension, diabetes, all those factors are still on the rise throughout the developed world, and they're creating an epidemic of heart failure that affects millions of people, and these patients still have a greater than 50% 5-year mortality rate. And I think that speaks to a need for new therapeutic entrants, and we hope to be one.
Can you talk a little bit more about the competitive landscape and why your therapy is differentiated?
Well, with respect to the lead program, the current medication that is available is an immune suppressing drug. It is a biologic, it's injectable, and it's very, very expensive. It's prohibitively expensive. So in contrast, we're an oral. We have an extraordinary safety profile. We're more accessible from a price perspective. And we had what we believe to be a significant impact on the patient's key symptom with that condition, which is pain. And we also had similar impacts on inflammatory markers and the episodes of that pain syndrome that they experience. And that was the underpinnings of an end of phase 2 meeting with the FDA, which cleared our phase 3 trial. And now we're enrolling that program throughout the world, with the major anchor centers being here in the United States.
So obviously we're here at NASDAQ Market Site in Times Square. You're a NASDAQ listed company. So what role have the public markets played in advancing your mission, and what does NASDAQ represent to you?
Well, NASDAQ is the premier exchange for life sciences and innovative companies. So we're thrilled to list here an IPO in late 2021. And what's happened since that day is quite remarkable. So at that time, we were a phase 1 company. We were preparing to transition to a phase 2 company. And for the lay audience, drugs typically go through 3 phases of development. You do a phase 1 study for safety, phase 2 for confirmation of safety and indications or signals of efficacy, which then justify possibly moving the medicine forward. And then you do phase 3, which is typically the last stage of development. Since that time, since that IPO, and what the NASDAQ provided our development effort was a bridge to now being a phase 3 late stage company. So we enter the NASDAQ phase 1. Here today, we're a phase 3 company advancing the final stage of development of our lead drug. We have an exciting next stage development in a disease called myocarditis, which takes young, healthy lives unnecessarily, for which there is no treatment. And now we have a bridge and a gateway into heart failure, which is an order of magnitude larger. Those other challenges are significant as well. They impair young, healthy lives. But heart failure is an epidemic. It has incalculable potential, and we look forward to playing a part in that.
And we look forward to seeing what you do next and watching you continue to innovate and grow and impact patients' lives. So I think that's a great place to leave it. If you want to learn more about Cardiol Therapeutics, they trade right here on NASDAQ under the symbol CRDL. David, thank you so much for being here, and thank you all for watching.
Great, thank you.